What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Mike Lenoci Show. And I know that we talked about doing the Miami Dolphins history during the offseason, which we will get back to next week, unless some crazy news happens. But I'm going to go over free agency, the first week of free agency. Kind of want to go over some things, tell you my opinion. But before we get started, just a reminder, like and subscribe. Comment on the channel. Trying to build this YouTube show for when the football season comes. I do weekly recaps. They're fun. Sometimes I miss them because I'm traveling to the games. But either way, let's get into it. Free agency. Not the most exciting one for the Dolphins, but maybe that's good for once, right? We don't necessarily want to make a splash. Like, I was guilty of wanting to get Joey Bosa. I wanted to get him. And I think we offered. We offered probably like $8 million from what I was hearing. And then he goes with the Bills. Now, is that a big deal? Yeah, the Bills are going to be good regardless. But they got rid of Von Miller and swapped him for Bosa. So is it like the same kind of thing? It's almost like having the same type of player, if you ask me. If anything, Von Miller's more experienced. But free agency, I think the biggest news for us was signing Zach Wilson. I think that was a big one for us. And I don't know how you guys feel about the quarterbacks out there. I was thinking Daniel Jones. That was one of the names that crossed my mind. I go, Daniel Jones wouldn't be so bad. Another buddy of mine said he would rather have Zach Wilson. Either way, you're not going to get that excited about a backup quarterback. That's why they're a backup quarterback. So I will say this. Zach Wilson can scramble. He has an arm. And he's coachable. And for the mess he dealt with in New York, there was flashes of something that maybe that can get coached out of him. Who knows? But I promise you this. He is better than Mike White. And he is better than Jacoby Brissett. And he is better than anybody we've had. He's better than Huntley. He's definitely better than Huntley. He's definitely a better athlete. And maybe he can learn the offense. Maybe this is a wake-up call for him. It's humbled him. And if there's a chance that Tua's hurt for 3 or 4 games, most likely, based off of his career, maybe there's a chance he comes in and he could go 3-2. Better than what the backups did for us last year. And it's not to say that we're not going to maybe draft a guy either. The window's still open to drafting a young guy late in the 3rd or 4th round. If there's a guy sitting there that could potentially be developed into a starter, who knows? Right now, I think we all feel like we're uncertain about Tua. We're stuck with Tua for at least 2 more years before we would get out of it. I mean, you could get out of it after this season, the next season, and then, a light penalty or something. I'm not sure with the contracts, but we got to win now. And I believe that this team, and I said this last year, but here we are. We brought it back, and I said that in previous episodes. I said, we're going to run it back, and we did. But I firmly believe this is the last year for all parties. And I would think that would be Greer, McDaniel, and Tua, unfortunately, would be stuck with us, and I don't know what we do. But this is a year where something's going to happen. You're going to have to win a playoff game. Otherwise, what are we doing? And to be honest, I did the research, and I don't think, I say I did the research, and now here I am second-guessing myself. We've never had a coach go 5 years since Don Shula. Every coach only makes it 4 years or less. After the 4th year, they get fired. We've never had a coach make it to the 5th year. Will that be Mike McDaniel? After one mediocre season, people are off the bandwagon. The first 2 seasons, everybody was like, whoa, we got our coach for the next 15 years. Even I said that. And now people are like, maybe he's been figured out. Guys expect to have championship caliber teams every year when you don't have an O-line or you have a quarterback that can't stay healthy. He did a lot for what he worked with, and at times the run game was there, but maybe we can improve that as well too. But I think the major issue in free agency for us and through the draft was beef up our O-line and beef up the secondary because we lost both of our safeties and potentially and a cornerback and a starting quarterback who kind of was in and out of injuries. So we really have a lot of moving pieces that we had to kind of address. And I think the first one was probably drafting a quarterback that I assume they sat down with Mike McDaniel and who do you think is the best equipped for your offense? Now, there's people like Aaron Rodgers out there. Will he get a starting job? Most likely, whether it's with the Giants or Steelers. Okay. But then there's Russell Wilson. Where's he going? Now, would it be bad to have him as a backup in Miami? It's out of the question now. I think them signing Zach Wilson is they're completely in on him as a backup outside of drafting a young guy. But I didn't think Zach Wilson. I mean, I thought of his name maybe earlier, like towards the end of last year. I was like, oh, what if we got him next year? But I thought Daniel Jones was maybe a better prospect, but maybe I'm wrong. What do I know? Outside of that, I don't really know who would have been better fit. Like in my mind, I was like, if Derek Carr leaves the Saints, but wouldn't he get another starting job? I don't think Kirk Cousins is leaving, but I actually would rather have a Kirk Cousins over Zach Wilson because at least he's a vet. We know he can win. He's good. If he's back there for safety, maybe it kind of, sparks something from him to be like, oh, let me try to win this starting job if he played well when Tua got hurt. Beats me, but we got Zach Wilson, and I'm not that upset about it. I think it's kind of, there's hope there. There's something where, hey, this guy was like a second overall pick. Maybe he can be coached. He was in a bad situation in New York for 3 seasons. He was a backup in Denver, never got a shot really. So maybe he fires Tua up a little bit. Maybe he's the best competition Tua's had since being in Miami since Fitzpatrick, really. So we'll see. I mean, it just depends on what Zach Wilson wants from his life, Like, does this inspire him? Who knows? Hopefully, he's going into it with, hey, there's a chance I could start here. Tua gets hurt a lot. Maybe I can even have a second chance like Sam Darnold or Geno Smith. Maybe that's a thing. But the biggest thing for me that I was looking for was the offensive line. I wanted to see how the Miami Dolphins would operate in free agency because we have the 13th overall pick. And I think it's a little bit more clear what we might do with that 13th overall pick, but also you never know. So one of the biggest guards we landed was James Daniels. Now, I didn't know anything about him prior to this, but then when you do the research and you see the tweets and you read, that's all you can do. You don't watch film or see any highlights of guards, right? You just kind of watch a team and you're like, oh, and the announcers tell you, hey, they have a good offensive line. So what I know about this guy is he was really good in Pittsburgh, although Pittsburgh's O-line was a problem. So it's mixed feelings, but from what I'm taking from everything is that he was probably one of the second best guards available, top 3, top 4, and we got him for a relatively cheap price. I checked the stats, way cheaper than Robert Hunt. So if he can give us what Robert Hunt gave us, then that's a win. And I think that's something that's possible, right? Because we weren't going to pay Robert Hunt money. He got like $100 million. We wouldn't be able to do that with all the money that we have going to wide receivers and our linebackers right now. So, James Daniel, should we chalk it up for a win? I think it's an improvement. No more Liam. No more Robert Jones. These guys were just kind of like depth guys. So we get James Daniels, who you assume will be starting at right guard. Then we pick up this guy, Larry Borom, who was who was a starter in Chicago, which was also another horrible O-line. And they revamped their line, by the way, way better than we did. But I assume this guy is for depth to kind of be there in case there's an injury, but he's not going to start. Because from what I'm hearing or what I'm assuming is that Isaiah Wynn will be brought back. He's not been picked up yet. He's a good guard when he's healthy, good enough to start, and he would be our left guard. So our left guard would be Isaiah Wynn. Our right guard would be James Daniels. Our center is Anthony Weaver. Is it Weaver or Brewer? Sorry. I always confuse the name. And then your left tackle, Teron Armstead, and your right tackle is Austin Jackson, as of right now, with your backup utility guy, Patrick Paul. So you have Patrick Paul and Borum, and then I think there's a couple other depth linemen that they re-signed. So you feel like they have their 7 guys right now, right? They have 7 to 8 guys for the line right now competing. If the season was to start tomorrow, I'm not the most excited about it, but it's an improvement. Also, if they stay healthy. The problem is Armstead's always going to miss 4 games. Austin Jackson is coming off of an injury. And then you have revolving guards that are moving around that are never that great, but maybe this is an improvement. I also don't think we're necessarily done. It's been a little slow. So to name a few guards that are out there, there's that guy Brandon Sheriff. He's a really high-ranked guard. My mind is like, hey, if we bring him in, that's it. You bring in 3 guards, which I assume some of these guys could maybe play tackle if they had to. I like that. And then that would tell me that the 13th overall pick goes to the best safety in the draft. That's where my mind's going. Tell me what you think in the comments. There's also Mika Becton. He was a tackle that moved to guard. I know he didn't pan out. I think he was like an early first-round pick back in the day. But he's out there. So there is another guard. And then you have, you just have those 2 and Isaiah Wynn. So you have 3 guards out there that I think would fit. So I don't see why we wouldn't sign 1 more. That would be great because then that kind of makes the draft a little bit easier for us and we can fill other holes. But right now, you like what you see so far with the guard position. My concern is the tackle. That's why I'm still open. Let's say they didn't sign another guard. So they just took those 2 guards. Then we have those 2 guards. We have a center. And then we have Austin Jackson and Armstead and our center. You know, does that mean your 13th overall pick, you're getting like one of those guys like Kelvin Banks Jr. at 13, which is great because those are a tackle, which you can move to right tackle, and then you move Austin Jackson back inside, and now all of a sudden it's not too bad because Austin Jackson's not a bust. He was a 21st overall pick in the first round, and we've had him for going on 6 seasons, so it's not bad. He's just not a superstar. He's not a Laramie Tunsil. But if we move him inside to guard and you have James Daniels and Austin Jackson at guard with Brewer and someone like the Kelvin Banks Jr., who I see his name a lot at right tackle, and then Armstead, now we're talking. Now it's a revamped line, maybe. That's where I would think we would go right now if we didn't sign another guard, or maybe I don't know. Maybe we bring in another guard and then you get a tackle in the 2nd round. But I still think our first 2 picks is going to be a lineman, whether it's a tackle or a guard. We're bringing someone in for competition, and I think that based off of what we have about 7, 8 guys. So you're bringing in a 9th guy, and hopefully he's a starter. That's what I would hope for. But we could sign someone, and then maybe we don't. Maybe we don't take a lineman in the first 2 rounds. But the first 2 rounds are really like you want some day 1 starters there. And then we get to the safety position. Javon Holland's gone. We kind of agreed that he was going to go. We weren't going to pay him $15 million a year. And then when the Broncos signed one of the top safeties, I looked and it was probably about the same pay that Javon was going to get. But we slept on it. We got this guy, Infento Mikolofonu, whatever. And he's from the Lions. And apparently not bad. I think it would be an improvement from what the play of our safeties were last season. We will see. You never really know. You don't like that he's not a star. You're not going to get a star for the price you're paying for the safety. All right? And then we brought in Ashante Davis, and he was on the Jets. Checked out his numbers. Fine. I mean, no different from what Javon Holland's numbers were. So we're getting it for a way cheaper price. Javon was probably a little bit more hyped, maybe more tackles, but this guy has more picks than Javon Holland. Or, I mean, if not maybe the same career, maybe a little bit more. So we got 2 safeties with Elijah Campbell. So we have 3. So you got to think they're going to address it maybe in the draft. But I will mention Justin Simmons is out there. He's pretty good, at least for a veteran. Give him a chance to maybe have a second chance with the Dolphins to earn one more contract that makes him, you give him a 1-year deal. But I wouldn't mind maybe bringing him in. Am I wrong? He's out there. So there is one more safety out there that's a name that you would recognize. And he was, with the Broncos, I think. And he moved on for the Broncos, upgraded. But if you're not going to spend the money, you got those two guys and Simmons, not bad. I know Nick Needham, he can also play safety. So there's an option there too. So that's why I'm a little confused with what we would do with our 13th overall pick. Still not sure. I think we would have to see what happens in the next coming weeks. Because if they sign another guard, then that tells you that maybe they're going to think safety with that 13th overall pick, which maybe you get more value. Because at 13, you might get the best safety in the draft. It very well could fall to you where you have the best safety in the draft. Now, if you sign someone like Simmons or bring in another guy, then maybe it tells me that we're going to go with a tackle. We're not going to get the best tackle. We're going to get either the second or third best tackle in the draft at 13. Because unless you think the Bears aren't going to draft a tackle anymore because it seems like they picked their linemen. So maybe they don't go with they're ahead of us. And I would assume that they're going to hit a lineman. But they did do a lot of free agency signing and traded. Maybe they don't. Okay? And the other team in there that was going to probably draft a lineman, you would think the Patriots could. The Patriots definitely could. But then they could also be sitting there and they could take Travis Hunter. So we won't know till the day of. Obviously, we won't know until the day of, but I'm saying I think in a week we'll have a better idea of what we think that draft pick will be for us. Another signing for us was an underrated one. They talked about this on Rich Eisen, Nick Westbrook-Akine, who was one of the second best wide receivers for the Titans, and I guess he's very, very fast. I don't remember him. I don't remember seeing him in free agency and fantasy and picking him up. Sometimes when you don't know a star wide receiver, a lot of the time you judge off fantasy players. So I don't remember seeing him on the waiver wire of people picking him up. But I do recall that he had a touchdown like 6 games in a row. So, and he's a threat and he's a big, fast guy. So that's to go with Tyreek, Waddle, and this guy. And then you have you have Jonnu Smith. You have, they're bringing, I think they're bringing Ekuzuma back. Eric, maybe he's back. And then we'll have Malik Washington still. So you're kind of set with the guys you want in the wide receiver room. There is about 5 or 6 of them, if I'm not mistaken. I don't see us doing any more work there. There are people out there, though, that are veterans like a Keenan Allen, a Stephon Diggs. I expect Stephon Diggs to go to the Cowboys. But a Keenan Allen, does no one want him? And then we pick him up, and he's like an OBJ this year. We overpay for a guy that we don't use much. Maybe. I don't think we're going to fall for that again. We've done that quite a few times over the last few years, going back to who was it, Fuller or someone that we had gotten who was a big Texans wide receiver, and then he never played for us and stole $10 million from us, basically. But I think with Waddle and Hill and then this third guy, Nick Westbrook-Akine, correct me if I'm wrong, with Jonnu Smith, with Achane, with Jalen Wright, I mean, you have your pieces on offense. I feel like you have your weapons. It's just a little bit more focus on the O-line, whether that's bringing in another guard and drafting a tackle, which is like, hey, if you're all in on the offense, why not? Right? And then your defensive linebackers, assuming they're all going to be ready to start the year, Chubb, Jalen Phillips, do you bring Agba back? I don't know. Zach Sealer, Chop Robinson, Ramsey leading the secondary, these 2 safeties that we're learning about right now. We need another corner. I think we need another corner, and maybe that comes at the 13th pick in the draft. I don't know. It's still a little too early. There are people out there, though, like this. Von Miller is out there. Didn't have the best comeback after being injured the 2 years ago. Last year was good at times, but a guy that could be on snap counts to try to get one last shot. And then there's Calais Campbell. Is he going to come back? I'm not going to say if I've heard anything, but I think he might. If you've done your research and you know my channel, let me just tell you this. I think he might. That's all I need to tell you. I'm not saying anything else, but you've seen my channel. You've seen who I've had on my channel. I think he might come back. That's all I'm going to say. So, he was a beast last year for a leader, and he was on a snap count. Imagine having Calais Campbell and a Von Miller with Chop Robinson, with Jalen Phillips, with a Bradley Chubb, with Jordan Brooks. The interior line and the linebacking core, pretty good. Cornerbacks and safeties, question mark, right? So do you address that in the draft? More questions that will be answered in another week or so, depending on who else we sign. Because it's like, I don't know if we have a third-round pick, but you want an impactful player. Whoever is that 13th pick needs to be a starter day one. So what will be more valuable? We'll know in a week. Will it be having a lineman or a secondary guy there? One of those two needs to come in. And that's just what I believe. I believe whether it's the best corner or whether it's a tackle or a safety. I'll throw this out there. Would you be open, and this is just hypothetically speaking, would you be open if Miami traded next year's second, because you're all in with this team. If you're Greer and you're McDaniel, you got to think, hey man, if we don't produce a winning team that wins a playoff game this year, likely we won't be here. So why wouldn't I leverage some assets of the future to try to guarantee me this win? You see where I'm going with this? What if we traded maybe next year's second, this year's first, and maybe a fourth round pick this year to move up 5 spots and take Travis Hunter? Hear me out, dude. Hear me out. Starting cornerback, opposite of Jalen Ramsey. Packages offensively with him. Who's great at packages? Mr. Mike McDaniel. Hear me out, dude. Hear me out. Is that crazy? And how exciting would that be? You're only about you only have to move up 6 picks. Who knows? I'm just saying, if I put that energy out there, maybe someone sees it, maybe someone else says it, we could start the rumor mill, and maybe it gets on their radar. And they're like, yeah, why wouldn't we do that? Hey, McDaniel, Greer, you're on the hot seat. Make a move. Make a move. Make a move. That's how I feel. That's how I feel. That would be exciting. All right, another one I'm going to throw out there. He's out there. He's available. What was one thing the Miami Dolphins were really bad at last year? 4th and 1s, 3rd and shorts. Couldn't just run up the middle and get the first down. Very frustrating at times. Even going back to the Monday night game where we lost to the Titans, when we feel like that's the deciding factor on whether we are the 2 seed in the NFL. We lose that Monday night game. All we had to do was get a first down. It was like 3rd and 1. God, if you had Bradley Chubb, if you had Chubb, not Bradley Chubb, the Browns running back, Chubb, which is Chubb. Imagine having him, a power back who could help us with 3rd and short and 4th and short. One thing we're so bad at. We're really bad at that. Achane, Mostert was our power back. He's agile. He's fast. Really? He's our red zone back? No. Why am I blanking on his name? I need to look it up as I just play. Nick Chubb. There it is. Nick Chubb. You're telling me that's not a great fit for us? Get him for $5 million. Nick Chubb, Achane, Jalen Wright. I love that. You're all in. You have your 3 wide receivers. You have your 4th with Malik Washington. You brought Izakomama back or whatever. You have your 7 or 8 linemen right now. That's what you have going into the draft. That's exciting. And then you have Jonnu Smith, and we need a backup tight end, which we don't know what happens. Which that could even be, I would be upset. Someone had, in one of the mock drafts, they had us drafting that tight end, Troy something. I don't want that. That doesn't make sense. We don't need that. Our focus is with Jonnu. He's got the chemistry. Worry about that later. That's not the piece we're missing. Oh, a good blocking tight end? Yeah, maybe. Why don't you get a good blocking lineman? Like, so right now, we have about 7 linemen, 5, 6, 7 linemen. Draft one, whether it's later on, if not an impact one. You have your wide receivers. You have your running backs. Give Nick Chubb a shot. And then defensively, you know, you have your linebacker core. There are people out there. Stephon Gilmore, another cornerback that's out there you could bring in for depth. I know he's old, but it's a shot. Maybe you bring in Isaiah Wynn too. There's pieces here to make us feel exciting. That's all I'm saying. There's still some time, but I like what's happening. Yeah. Let me know what you guys think. I like the Travis Hunter thing. Could we make that possible? Can we get that out there? Can we get people talking about that? How exciting would that be? That would be big. That would be big. It fills one of our major holes on our secondary at corner, opposite of Ramsey, on top of giving him some packages in offense. I mean, game changer. There's not a better coach that would be a perfect fit for him. And I would be willing to sacrifice future potential picks because we're all in right now. Even if McDaniel and Greer are gone, we have Tua for 3 more seasons. You're not going to have a team that bombs and has a high draft pick. We're not giving up our first. We're just giving up a second and a third. Who knows? But, like, keep your first for God forbid. But this is the time. You've got to go all in the next couple of years. That's a piece that could be impactful from day one. A guy who could be a Pro Bowler. Let me know what you guys think. Comment, like, subscribe. Thank you guys for watching. If you love my comedy, check out my comedy page, Michael Lenoci Comedy. And I will see you guys next week. We'll get back on track with the Miami Dolphins history, which is a separate section I'm creating on this page. Check it out. See you guys soon. Bye-bye.